Hello, Forney. Thank you for listening to the Forney Now podcast, the official podcast for the city of Forney. Joining me today is Director of Economic Development, Lynn Spencer, for the Forney Economic Development Corporation. Lynn, thank you so much for joining me.
Absolutely. I'm thrilled to talk about economic development in Forney. We got good things going.
Yeah, it's certainly a hot topic, and I just wanted to bring you on and talk about some exciting things that you're working on and some things that I think the residents of Forney would find interesting. So first off, you are the director for the Forney EDC. Could you talk about what the Economic Development Corporation does?
Sure, absolutely. So we do a variety of different things with the objective of creating jobs and improving the quality of place. And what that means is finding whether it's industrial jobs like manufacturing, distribution, and helping respond to today's economy and the way people want goods and services provided to them, as well as what the quality of place is for the community. So they have restaurants, they have retail, access to medical facilities, making sure they have those things that create a overall lifestyle that is conducive to a thriving economy. And the way that we do that is through a few different categories. The first being business retention and expansion. Studies will tell you that the majority of jobs created in a community come from those businesses that already exist. So we do a lot of things to help networking or deal with issues that businesses may be having as a collective group. So we do things like the Bankers Roundtable, and we get banks together to talk about issues in their industries, or our upcoming Human Resource Roundtable, where HR directors can get together and talk about any workforce issues and plan for future job fairs. So there's those types of things, as well as the networking events. So we partnered with the Chamber of Commerce most recently to kickstart some of these networking opportunities like Coffee and the Economy. So businesses can come out, learn about projects that are going on in the area, and then talk about any issues that they may be having, so that we can create programs and information to address some of the business issues. Some of the other things that we do our business attraction. That's what most people are familiar with when they think about an EDC, because they want to know what's coming to town. So we do promotions and marketing, or basically the sales engine for a city, to make sure that people are aware of who we are, where we are, and what we have going. For example, yesterday we participated in the Dallas Business Journal's Best Real Estate Deals to learn about what was happening in Southeast Dallas, so we could promote all the growth we have, as well as the opportunities for growth, in partnership with our real estate brokers and our industrial and commercial brokers. So the marketing outreach, we go to trade shows, for example, ICSC. We've seen comments on Facebook. Is that a real conference? Yes, there's actually a conference for shopping centers. It's actually the largest one that exists. It's held in Las Vegas annually. It's actually where we got introduced to Outback Steakhouse. So those trade shows are very important for us because they build visibility to the markets that we want to enter. It also gives us a chance to sit down with those real restaurants and retailers to find out what it is they're looking for. So we can talk to them about what it is we have, what growth is coming to the area, as well as different places where we might see their business thrive.
Gotcha. Okay. So I know another thing that the EDC does is they can provide certain grants and other things like that, performance agreements. How does the EDC get its money? How's it funded?
We are funded by a half-cent sales tax. And so what that means is when the allocation of sales tax that's generated in the community comes back, we get a percentage of that to use to further economic growth and create quality of place improvements. And so annually, we go to the city council and they approve our budget, our overall budget, and then our board helps us guide our yearly strategy. So what we're going to do that year. And so our board is appointed by council, and council approves our budget. And then my role is the day-to-day implementation of the vision of council and the board. So if they want our focus to be on XYZ, that's where we're going to put the money that year, and that's what we're going to focus on. And what's fun about economic development is every town you go into and do it, it's everybody has a different focus, right? And it may change from year to year. Right now, a lot of the focus is on retail, stronger retail markets, getting power center done. And so a lot of our energy right now is focused on that. A lot of promotional and marketing. You are allowed to spend a certain percentage of your budget on marketing and promotions. Fortunately, we have a very strong EDC budget, so we're able to use that to incentivize projects that we want done. And one of the things that an economic development corporation can do is fund infrastructure projects as it relates to job creation. And so we can find those partnerships to get things done that the community wants as well as the business. For example, Ridgecrest Road. So we were able to work with the developer who was originally going to put in all industrial up to 548. And we said, no, we want to keep the characteristic of 548 being retail. So please make that retail. And then in order to alleviate some of the truck traffic, the employee traffic, what we'd really like to see is an extension of Ridgecrest Road. And so they agreed to that, and they're paying the lion's share of it. We're matching them $1 million. I think the project's like $8 million for the road to go all the way from 548 over to the new Gateway Power Center. So we're able to work with developers to get some of those infrastructure projects done that not just support creation of jobs, but also help the community get around.
Gotcha. It's definitely interesting. It seems like it'd be a pretty busy job. With Forney growing the way it is and being, in the market that it is, do you guys field a lot of inquiries about Forney?
We do. One of our biggest challenges is existing space, where to put people. There has been some increased demand on people wanting to come downtown, and finding spaces in downtown is pretty challenging right now because there's just not a lot of empty space. Same thing with some of these major retailers. There's just the buildings aren't there yet. So we are definitely finding an increase in our retailers. I think one of the things that's really helped us is we have one of the larger developers working on the shops at Forney Gateway. Because of their name and their connections, they've actually helped drive a lot of new retailers that had not looked at us before in the entertainment area. So right now we're fielding a bunch of calls from possible entertainment. Does that mean they're coming? No, but they're at least coming to us, which is a change. So we're able to have those conversations about what entertainment looks like in Forney. A couple of the ones are more like adult entertainment, or things like the bars and the breweries. As you've heard recently, the EDC just partnered with Forney Brewing Company to take over the 203 East Main building in downtown to create that brewery space. Brass Tap has just signed a lease for a new development that's getting built on the south side of 80 by the American National Bank building. And we're starting to see that more places to go that have outdoor activities. We're starting to see some of those. We're starting to see interest in children's entertainment, places where you could have a birthday party. We're hoping that we can land one of these so we can give the community some more fun.
Yeah, something I'm sure you hear a lot is that's what people are asking for is entertainment. As retail has come in, it seems like that's the next thing where people don't have to go somewhere to find those entertainment options. So could you talk a little bit more about the shops at Forney Gateway? I know this is kind of in the conceptual phase, but
absolutely. So Edge Realty, who creates power centers all over the Dallas Metroplex, has identified 50 acres north of the highway with great access to the Gateway Bridge, which is what makes it attractive. They are in talks with a 140,000 square foot superstore, in addition to a variety of retail, women's apparel, home shopping, decor type places. And so all of these are currently in discussions, as well as more children's entertainment. So what happens is they create these conceptual plans, and a lot of people have seen them, and they get excited and they think these square boxes are where these people are going. And sometimes those are used as a marketing tool for a real estate developer to go to those different stores and say, hey, I see that you could fit here, and then we could get these people, and they kind of work on it together with these retailers to try to make this story that it's a whole development. And so that's what's happening right now. Is Edge is gaining interest. They're learning about who might be interested in coming to Forney. There's definitely an increase in major retailers looking at Forney. We haven't signed any leases yet. That's what we're hoping for this year, is to get some things signed so that we have a little, a little more, I guess, hope in the major box retail coming. And of course, every development is different, right? So if you look at the shops, the Victory shops over where Kohl's is going in, that's more of your strip center developments like Outback and Cava's and Torchy's Tacos, and all of those start because of a major anchor, right? So Outback said yes, and then all of a sudden you start seeing these other little guys. So we're trying to find those anchors for the Trail House development, which is right behind the Kohl's development, as well as the Forney shops, so Gateway. So hopefully here in the next few months, we will be able to make announcements for both of those developments that will help stimulate some growth and excitement. So I know we have had one recently for Trail House that we're currently in negotiations with, and that is a group called The Point. Mm-hmm. The Point is a restaurant concept that has a stage and live music. So making sure that, the EDC has provided them with a small incentive to incentivize them to come. Right now they're working through their financial issue, financial financing and investors to make sure that the dollars and cents line up for them. And then hopefully all will work out and they'll come. And so those are ones that, sometimes they get announced because we're giving them incentives, but that doesn't necessarily mean they've signed on the dotted line yet. And so we have to be very careful about the community expectation that these are people we're talking to. We are in negotiations with them, and we hope to land them. And then there's shops at Forney Gateway where you have to be a little more quiet because we're competing for the same retailers that Terrell is competing for, right? And so we have to be careful on how much information we provide because they're also trying to incentivize. And so we're all working to make sure that Forney gets our share of the retail market.
So speaking of the big time anchor stores, those big fish out there that you guys hear all the time, Forney needs this. That's obviously a very specific, or that's a very thorough process from those companies. What all does like a major retailer look at before they decide this is where I want to go? I want to come to Forney because of these reasons.
They're looking at growth. They want to come into a community that's growing. So, of course, we are. So they look at your housing developments, not just in the city of Forney, but our surrounding area, their retail trade area is what they call it, to make sure that things are growing. They're staying on top of the market to make sure there's all these things that are planned are actually happening. So they'll look to make sure that's occurring. One of the things that these major retailers are looking at is comparables. For example, when we were talking to Outback, one of their first questions is, well, what's the sales look like at Chili's? And I talk about that comparison a lot because it helps people understand that you've got to use the places that are here. They may not be your favorite place right now, but they're the leader in the market that help the other people decide to come. And so that is very similar to Kohl's. Kohl's is an entry market retail store. But what other retailers are looking at is they're looking at, well, how is Kohl's going to do? So there's a lot of eyes right now on the Kohl's store. So when that opens in the summer, I'd like to encourage everybody to go back to school shopping at Kohl's because that will help us then justify additional retail market shops. And so one of the other things that they're looking for is density. Frankly, they're looking to make sure a place is busy. So one of the things that drives the public and the residents crazy is traffic, but that's exactly what the retailers are looking for. They're looking for a high traffic area. They're looking at the traffic counts from TxDOT to make sure that the traffic in the area justifies the percentage of people that may stop there and come in and go shopping. And so they're also looking for fellow anchors, like who else is in the market. And so when you look at a major anchor going into Gateway, one of the challenges we have is that it is such a big piece of land, and there isn't a lot of activity right there. So while there's industrial south of the highway, and there's windmill farms off to the side, that big area doesn't have the traffic counts that you have at 548 and 80. And so while people are like, oh my gosh, why did HEB pick that spot? They picked it because it's traffic. And so that's what we have to now do, is sell the fact that Gateway can be just as busy. And so we're trying to figure out how we can create a space in that area which will generate the type of traffic that they're looking for, which is one of the values of Ridgecrest Road, because people will be able to go from West Forney all the way into Gateway from Ridgecrest. So we're trying to improve that traffic pattern so that they have more access.
You mentioned earlier that HEB, they have the land where they have it because it's such a popular area. Get asked about that a lot. What's the status on HEB?
Well, we connect with the Senior Director of Public Affairs for HEB on a regular basis. And like they continue to say, they're working through railroad issues. Working with railroad takes a long time. So, they've been studying our market. They know the value of it. That's why they bought the property. But they do need to work through those railroad issues, and those can take significant time. But the good news is for the Tom Thumb, which we can finally now talk about because they are now entering the permitting process. I know they were delayed a little bit because when you look at a grocery store, it's basically a giant refrigerator, right? Mm-hmm. And the country had a supply chain backup on refrigeration units, especially ones that meet the new environmental requirements. And so at least that's what we were told by some people in the industry, that some of the delay has been because they just couldn't get the supplies to build grocery stores because of the refrigeration units. But the supply chain seems to be opening up a little bit. And so we are now able to move forward with our Tom Thumb.
And that's going to be another exciting grocer option for the folks at Forney. And the Tom Thumb development is going to happen where?
Well, it is down by Forney High School at the corner of 741 and 548. That whole area is doing great. The Bellagio is moving forward. You can see the construction now moving. You can see the development next to 7-Eleven on both sides are moving forward with the urgent care as well as the Hot Works. Of course, the Lemon Nail Bar and Salad and Go is coming in there. The Tom Thumb development, which we had thought it would be open the end of 24. They're now saying maybe the beginning of 25, just depending on, again, supply chain and construction timing. But that development is also supposed to be putting in some restaurants and retail. So we're going to be working with them to try to get some good restaurants and retail. I know that there was some rumor of another Chick-fil-A, which we had been talking to Chick-fil-A about a second location, but it's just too close to the other ones. So that is not happening at this point.
Gotcha. So, you talk about how businesses look for certain things. We often receive questions about why are more of these coming into Forney? People talk about donut shops. Nail salons is another one. Right. But there's only so much the city can do as far as approving retail and businesses from coming in. Could you talk about what those are?
Sure. Yeah. And we hear that all the time. Why are we getting more nail salons? Why are we getting more donut shops? And we don't control these retail centers, right? A retail center goes in, so long as it's zoned correctly, those private stores are allowed to put anybody in there that can pay the rent, right? And the fair market value. And you also have a shorter turnaround time for people doing donut shops. They can make decisions faster than some of your bigger companies. Also, a lot of these are franchises. And so it's finding somebody that is interested in that franchise that can afford the franchise. And so you find those less expensive franchises easier to find people to run them, right? And to invest in them. But one of the things is, we work with our real estate brokers and teams to talk about what we prefer to see in a development, but that doesn't stop them from taking a lease with whoever comes to them as well. So, we partner with them. We go to ICSC. We tell them who we're looking for. We send letters out to different stores that we'd like to see, or reach out to different shop owners to say, hey, we love you in Forney. But we can't discriminate. We can't prohibit anybody from coming. The control that a city has is in your planning and zoning, right? Getting a conditional use permit to put in a car wash, or however the planning and zoning committee and the council decides what would require a additional level of permitting or zoning to at least control a little bit of what comes in. But for the most part, if an area zoned retail, if 5 donut shops wanted to go in there, there's really, unless they had a donut exclusion, there's really not much that we can do. All we can do is try to incentivize ones that we do want, right? And so if we find uses that we want, we can offer incentives to say, hey, we really want this type of food, or we really want this shop. And so that's why you'll see us incentivizing certain things and certain projects. It just helps us have a little bit of encouragement and incentivizing the right users. But yeah, we can't, unfortunately, sometimes, so long as the zoning's there, they can come. So,
is there any type of retail that you're after? We want, I hear Brahms is mentioned a lot, or...
Yeah, Brahms is mentioned. They're not receptive to our market for some reason, and I don't know why. I don't know why they're not as receptive to our market. I don't know if it has to do with how close we are to a different Brahms, or how we don't meet their demographics. But they haven't really been interested in our market. We are getting interest from other dessert concepts. Obviously, Crumble Cookies is coming in. We're getting a lot of interest from other ice cream concepts and other name brand dessert concepts. But for some reason, Brahms is not on we're not on their list for some reason. And we send them information, and we can send, every bit of data, but unless we're in their market, and maybe it's because they have so many stores already in East Texas, you don't know what markets they're looking for. For example, we tried to get a Einstein Brothers bagels, right? Well, they're not looking at the East Texas market right now. They're looking at the Austin market. And so sometimes it just comes down to where their expansion plans are as a company. And it may have nothing to do with what you have or don't have. It just might be where they want, where they're looking for their corporate growth. And so those things have to kind of match, right? Because they're corporations, they want to grow. They might not have franchisees if they're a franchise. They have different restrictions and opportunities that they go by. And so you kind of have to mix and match. And I know one of the things that people said, well, why didn't we get a Saltgrass Steakhouse instead of Outback Steakhouse? Well, if you look at Saltgrass Steakhouse, their model is to go toward places where there's some sort of entertainment, right? So you see them in Arlington near the ballpark. You see them in Mesquite where they have the rodeo. You see them in places where there's a little bit more tourist activity. So Outback tends to go to ones that are more residential, more trying to meet that graduation dinner group, right? And the prom dinner group. And so you kind of have to fit into what it is they do. So, and where their growth model is at the time. So.
Gotcha. Outback is going to be at the Victory Shops at Forney.
Correct.
And it looks like there's some really exciting things that the EDC has already announced that are coming. Torchy's Tacos, you mentioned already. Cava, which is really good Mediterranean food, which I think will be an exciting option for folks, as well as Dilla's, which is like a quesadilla place.
Yeah, there's definitely more Mexican looking in the area. So yeah, and I think one of the fun things over there is that Mo Betta's Hawaiian I think one of the things that we're kind of focused on is how do we diversify our palate?
Right.
So, whether it's Mediterranean or Indian or something a little more unique, so that there's more of a variety.
Right.
And so that's what we're focused on. We're very excited as you talk about how busy we are. We're very excited in the next couple of weeks to be bringing on another staff person to help us. And the role is to help us do more small business development, but also focus more on our downtown and figure out how we can maybe come up with some branding to elevate what's happening around Broad Street and downtown. So one of the things that came up was the Forney Arts Council was wanting to, I guess, a little re-energize the Forney market, and how could we do that? And was there something we could do to help in that area? And one of the things we said was, well, one of our goals is to elevate the restaurant industry. And, after COVID, a lot of those restaurants had a really hard time coming back. And so one of the things we want to do is get people excited. And we know people seem to love their food trucks. And so we've started Forney Flavors, and it'll be happening in conjunction with the Forney Arts Council Art Markets on April 8th. And so they're going out to get a few food trucks right now, and we're hoping to expand that. And one of the things we did was purchase the corner of Elm and Main, and we are going to be hiring a landscape architect to come up with different options, and we'll put that out to the public and see which option they prefer. But one of the concepts that we had originally was if we could kind of connect the Forney art market all the way into downtown to kind of help our downtown businesses at the same time the market is going on, to expand that environment. And so we're hoping if we pave some of it, that could be used as parking during the week, but then also use it as extension of the food trucks, because right now they can only, I think, have 4 food trucks at the art market, and we're hoping to hopefully double that in the future.
That sounds really exciting. And speaking of downtown, you mentioned it earlier, but the Forney Brewing Company.
Yes.
So the EDC owns a building here in downtown. The address, I'm not sure.
203 East Main.
Okay.
So common practice is to incentivize businesses that might not be able to come into an area, buy a building, and fix up that building and start a business all at the same time. So one of the things that the EDC does is we can purchase a building and then make a lease with a tenant that can improve the building to what they need, that would provide a benefit. And so we just did that with Forney Brewing Company. We're entering into a lease with them for 5 years, at which time they can use their own money to improve the building. And if they want to purchase it at some point, of course they can. We're very excited about the brewery. They want to put a patio on the side. So we think that's going to become a very vibrant corner. We're excited about what's coming.
I think that would be really great. I think that could definitely kind of energize the downtown area like you talked about.
Yeah, and so the guy that owns it is actually coming from the Manhattan Brewing Company, which is a well-known brewery in the Dallas market. And so we're very excited that he's coming not just as himself, but almost with this team of folks that have been in this industry. And so we're excited about the visibility. And so what's happened is, even just from having Forney Brewing and knowing Brass Tap is coming, we're starting to see that craft beer experience increase. We've had some interest from other folks in that industry that have been looking at downtown and spaces in downtown. So we're excited to see. It's the same as the anchors that we talk about in major retail centers. If you can start getting some major anchors in downtown, that can help transform the downtown area, so that each place in Forney holds a unique character and a unique identity. So, we kind of look at the experience that you'll have in Trail House, because they're going to have the 1 mile walking trails. They'll have the Hampton Inn, and they'll have multifamily in the back. So those folks in those apartments can walk to the different entertainment and restaurants that are going to come into Trail House. The shops at Forney Gateway will be a more traditional retail market with the bigger box retail shops. And then downtown, you keep it that smaller business, more artistic. So in that way, so that each part of your community gives you a different feel and a different experience. And so that's what we're trying to create is that experience that you'll get. We're hoping we can start focusing on that we're interested in seeing you look at who's there and you figure, okay, well, we do have a lot of beauty shops and pampering along Broad Street, with lots of smaller, unique restaurants in this area. And so one of the things that we're hoping bringing somebody on board with will be able to help us brand Broad Street and downtown, so to speak. So maybe we make a cute map where we show you all the different places you could go on your bachelorette party to get your eyebrows done or your hair done. And then guys can go over and have a lunch or something. And so how do we create that unique brand and unique experience for our downtown? So that's one of the things that we're going to be working on. We purchased 210 South Bodark for our EDC Resource Center. And one of the things that we're doing is businesses can use that space. So, for example, the chamber board meets there, the Forney Young Professionals meets there. People can reserve it for their business if they have 2 or more employees and they need to meet with a client or have a training. So we've been able to book that room for different businesses. One of the programs we're going to be starting is our small business program in conjunction with the Trinity Valley Small Business Group, and hopefully start having some more trainings and joint workshops on how to start a business. We get a lot of people come through our door that ask us, how do I start a business in Forney? I want to start this. Would it work here? And so we want to be able to help those people by putting together a more clear program of you start here and you go A, B, C, D, and let us help fix you up with mentors and partners. So we're really starting to see the business center pick up a little more. We're excited about our small business program. We're just in the infancy stage of that, starting to put it together and what that will look like as far as trainings. And then, of course, the different events. So we have the HR Roundtable on March 22nd, Coffee in the Economy on March 23rd. We have a Lunch and Learn with Texas Workforce Solutions for companies that want to learn how to use the resources through the workforce to fill their job vacancies. And then, of course, we have the Forney Field Trip for those members of the Chamber of Commerce or those attached to the Chamber of Commerce that are interested in driving around and seeing for themselves as we go through each of the developments in Forney and show them the growth. We're going to stop by Nav Central and take a tour of the new Nav Central building. They're growing from about 120 employees up to 200 is their ultimate build out in that new building. And then we're going to drive through the industrial park. We will drive through and talk to the developers outside of the Coles area. And then we're going to drive up to the Opportunity Central to learn about what's going on there. And then we're going to go down to one of our industrial projects at Exeter to learn about that. So for those people, businesses that are members of the chamber, we're looking forward to that field trip on March 30th.
Lynn, thank you so much for joining me. If you want to follow what the Forney EDC is doing, follow their Facebook page. They also have a website, forneytexasedc.org, if you want to reach out to them that way. Lynn, once again, thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.